following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Hello and welcome to Weighted Donuts. I'm Wayne Unger. My guest this week is former player agent and Yankee aficionado Joe Casale. Joe, welcome. Glad to have you back.
Hi, Wayne. Good to be back.
It's funny. I was the first thing that just popped into my head was I was just thinking back, like Sonny Gray was an all-star this year. Imagine that.
Some guys.
Why it just popped.
Some guys just don't fit in New York, and we've seen that over the years. They talk about that whole thing that that isn't true, but it really is. I mean, he was awful with the Yankees, and he turned into an all-star in Cincinnati. And it also helped that his college pitching coach is now the pitching coach of the Reds. So, but still, I mean, we've seen that with other pitchers, that some guys come to New York and flourish, and other guys come to New York, and it's a titanic struggle.
We have seen that, but I tell you what, I do have a little bit of a conspiracy theory. They had him throwing more sliders and less fastballs, and I read more than once. I saw charts where it showed how the Yankees changed his approach to pitching and to what he threw. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't done my homework to see, because I'm sure that data is available, what he's throwing more of this year. But it kind of makes me wonder as well whether or not it was New York or if the Yankees' idea of how he should pitch screwed it up.
Well, it's probably a combination of the two. The Yankees are a team that emphasizes more breaking balls, although, they're moving off of that a little bit. Last year they were, and I think it may have been because of the failed experiment with Sonny Gray that they're starting to move off that, throw the breaking ball more, because if you look at, re-signing Jay Happ, who doesn't have a breaking ball. I mean, he's two-seamer in on righties and all of that. And you look at their pitching approach this year has been a little bit more fastball dominant. One of the analytics revolution part that I'm not in agreement is that these guys are not robots. Certain guys can throw certain pitches. Certain guys have certain arm angles. And that's it. You're not going to have this uniform philosophy. It's the same way as you watch the way some teams manage a bullpen. They manage a bullpen as if it's soccer, that they're going to have a designated guy come in at a designated time. And, sometimes that just doesn't work. You go with a guy who's hot. And right now, for example, Chad Green is the hottest pitcher out of the bullpen for the Yankees by far. And one of the worst pitchers out of the bullpen the last 2 months has been Aroldis Chapman. So why not have Green close some games? And I understand, you're crossing the great northwest of dialing it back from a closer. But, if your job is to win games, you got to put your team in the best position to win. In the last 2 months, Aroldis Chapman puts 3 or 4 guys on every inning, and he's not.
I agree. I agree.
So
and
why not go with the hot hand?
Yeah, the other night when we were watching the Tampa game, when when Darno hit that third home, like he's he was struggling, and I'm saying to myself, when not only just Aaron Boone, when one of these days is a manager gonna grow a pair of balls, and if he sees his closer struggling, make that call to the bullpen, get somebody up. It does. You don't have to live and die with one guy in a situation like that.
It's so funny how baseball is today. Baseball is so attached to data and numbers and all of this stuff, and yet there are still certain truisms in the sport that they don't move off of, and that is one of them. Like, well, once we put the closer in, we ride and die with them. No, you don't have to do that. It's not set in stone that you have to do that. That's why I found it funny that the day after that debacle, a story comes out that Chapman is thinking about opting out of his last 2 years of his deal. And I'll tell you right now, I'm sure the Yankee front office is praying to God that happens. It's
course.
like, you want to test the market. Thanks for your time here. We just saved $30 million.
I listen. I agree. I mean, I tell you what. Tanaka's has he been a $26 million pitcher? No, but Tanaka's been good these last couple of years. But I remember 2 years ago, and when he had the option to opt out, and actually I had Kevin Kernan on, and he said, "Oh, he's definitely going to opt out and get more money." I said, "Well, I don't think so." I go, "He may opt out, but I don't think he's going to get more money." I go, "You know what? If he opts out, that's okay, because that frees up a lot of money. You can still buy a lot of pitching with that kind of money. I think they'll be okay." But he was sure that Tanaka was going to opt out.
Yeah, I think a lot of people thought he was. I think in Tanaka's case, it's a little different with Japanese players, because Japanese players really live on that whole loyalty front. They kind of approach their business and their game very differently than non-Japanese players. And I think with Tanaka, it was a loyalty thing more than just pure economics, because he would have gotten more money from somebody. It wouldn't have been from the Yankees, but from somebody on the in the open market, especially
I'm not
with
sure
the
if he would have. Yeah, but
he would have gotten more years, and it would have added up to at least as much or more money, because pitching is in such dire straits. Look at how many guys get overpaid as starters when they get on the market, and some of them don't even have the numbers as good as Tanaka. It's just weird. I mean, like I said, baseball goes back and forth in we're just strictly wed to data to we're gonna overreact to anybody that's in the marketplace. It's weird. I mean, Manny Machado and Bryce Harper had a difficult time making deals. Patrick Corbin got $146 million.
I know,
and so it's just that's because there's that perception that's probably reality. There are not a lot of good starting pitchers out there.
But you know what? If you take a look at it, though, okay? If you take a look at he was the only one. I mean, who else? What other pitcher got money? Eovaldi, he got 4 years, $60 million. I mean,
but even Eovaldi's contract, given his arm problems,
yes,
you say to yourself, how would you think about paying that guy? Yeah, that's what happens. And then again, they go, and then I think people get panicky in the game. It's like, oh my God, Patrick Corbin got $146 million. We can't pay X or we can't pay Y. And then instead of the market being brought up, the market was actually brought down. It's just so weird watching it all take place.
I mean, off the top of my head, you had Corbin, Voldy, Happ. I'm trying to think. Happ. I don't know. Oh, and Charlie Morton, who is the biggest bargain probably of all last winter. I think that's all you really had as far as starting pitches. On the market last year. And
you wonder, when you look at Charlie Morton, you wonder why in this data age of baseball, why he was a bargain and why he didn't get big money. I think the rumor was for a while that he was thinking about retiring, but he wasn't retiring. I mean, he went in there and got a good deal.
Actually, no. He said he was thinking of it, but he also what he said. I believe the quote from him was, if he does sign, if he doesn't retire, he's only going to do a year or two, and so he pretty much got But I mean, I'm surprised even for that year or two he didn't get a little more money. But he also was particular about where he was going to play, and that he didn't want to be too far from home. If
Right.
So that might have all played into it. And if you remember me on Facebook, the guy who I wanted the Yankees to sign was Keuchel. I'm like, I didn't want them in on Corbin. I thought Corbin would have been a severe overpay. I wanted them to sign Keuchel. Now, he's only pitched 4 games, but, he's shown, he hasn't been terrible. And his ground ball ratio is still, it's like off the charts. 75% of the balls hit off of him are ground balls. He's that perfect Yankee Stadium pitcher. And to me, I felt as though he was worth the overpay. In other words, like, if he wanted 4 years, he was the guy I would have given him 4 years, $80 million if I was a GM, because I'm looking at him like, I think I can get 4 real years out of him. I don't think I'm paying for 3 good and 1 wasted year. He's the way he throws and how he pitches. He's a guy I think I'm going to get those 4 years out of him, and he's perfect for my stadium. I just don't get it. I don't get it. So.
Oh, I agree. It's weird because I think that there's too many non-baseball people making these baseball decisions, and all organizations. It isn't just the Yankees. It's all organizations. I mean, the Yankees, in fact, if you look at overall their decision making this year, it's been off the chart when you consider you bring in DJ LeMahieu, which people didn't even, thought was a terrible signing. The guy right now is in the top 3 in MVP voting. Where would they be without Gio Urshela? You look at, and even Domingo Germán. I mean, they, by and large, they've made some decisions that were good, but pitching is like this thing in baseball that people, it's almost like they can't crack the code. It's really it's fascinating to me to watch because there's a lot of smart people in the game, but they just can't crack the code when it comes to pitching. And what the Yankees did, they brought in a guy who is one of the better pitching kind of guru guys recently to oversee their minor league operation. But it really is amazing.
No, listen, they've made these past few years, they've made all the right moves, great depth. It's funny you mentioned LeMahieu. Now, I didn't think it was a terrible signing, but I put a question out there a few weeks ago. I go, what prediction have you been wrong about so far as the baseball season goes? And I'm like, I'll go first. I thought the Yankees should have signed Jed Lowry instead of DJ LeMahieu, only because he's a switch hitter and he swings better from the left side. So hey, I got that. I didn't think LeMahieu was going to be a bust, but I just preferred Lowry. Lowry hasn't taken an at bat yet. And talk about non-baseball people. You got to feel for the Mets fans. It's like I don't know. They must be like sticking forks in their eyes. Like, what else can go wrong?
Well, there's no doubt. I mean, it's a hard business, and it's hard. And listen, I always tell people front offices in baseball are very similar to you hitting. I mean, if you connect on 3 out of 10, you're a 300 hitter. You're swinging it well. I mean, it's just hard. With the Mets, I mean, when you saw the trade that the Mets made with the Mariners, and you just said to yourself, what in the world would make you want to bring in Robinson Cano at this stage of his career to take on the salary and take on the player who's a shell of himself? You knew then the decision making was a little bit off the off the chart. But this is how they run their baseball operation. There is just it blows me away. It's a very different shop. They can't seem to get it together. And the other side of town, the entire Yankee team was on the injured list, and they somehow pulled it together because they prioritized depth. Now the question is, what do they do at the deadline? That's going to be the big question going forward. And I submit they ought to stay away from the starting pitching market because it's wildly overvalued. They called the Tigers on Matthew Boyd, and the Tigers said, we want Gleyber Torres. That's not even worth having a follow-up conversation. Marcus Stroman, would you trade Clint Frazier for Marcus Stroman? I wouldn't. Marcus Stroman is a number 4, number 5 starting pitcher. The Yankees have those guys on the staff. To me, I've said this the last few weeks, they ought to just beef up the bullpen. And when you get to getting Betances and Severino back, you may just put those guys in the bullpen and just build a power bullpen and limit your starters. If a guy's having a bad day, get him out of there in 3 innings, because that's where the game is going anyway, Wayne. How many guys get out there and take the ball for 7 innings now? Not many.
No, very, very few. But I tell you what. It's funny. After the 2016 season, I asked a number of people. I know I asked Jerry Krasnick. I had somebody else on, and I said, do you think, the way the bullpens were used in the postseason this year, because that was the real turning point, bringing a guy in the 4th inning, 5th inning, having him throw 2 innings, and, do you think, Cleveland and Chicago, they were pretty successful with it. Do you think we're going to see that in the regular season? And everybody was like, no, because the arms couldn't sustain it. But guess what? That's what everybody's doing. But we're also seeing a lot of injuries, even particularly more from bullpen pitches than from starting pitches. We're seeing the injuries pile up. So I wonder, if the injuries will curtail the trend. So I'm curious to see where that goes.
I think that all of these bullpens get overworked. And then you get near the trade deadline, and Cashman has had a history of this, I wouldn't say remaking the bullpen on the fly, but adding bullpen arms for the last 2 months because of the amount of guys that are getting overworked. I see it with Adam Ottavino. Adam Ottavino has not been as strong as he has been because he's been used so much. And I don't even blame Aaron Boone for that, because so much of what goes on in bullpen management now, and it's also the source of all of the friction between Theo Epstein and Joe Madden, is how much the front offices are dictating usage and usage patterns. And it really takes a lot of it out of the manager's hands. Aaron is told before the game, here are the guys that, here's the order you got to look at. And yeah, they'll always say the manager has final say, but if a manager continues to defy the front office, he's not going to be manager for long. And the case in point was Joe Girardi. So, and he had a 10-year successful track record. He defied the front office too much. All of a sudden, it's, so it's just, I find all of baseball kind of stuck. It's the old saying, when a hitter's struggling, he's stuck in between. I kind of find the entire industry is stuck in between in terms of what they want to do, and whether are you just going to be all data? Are you going to just massage the numbers to give yourself cover when it doesn't work out, or whether you really want to apply data accurately and put yourself in the best position to win? And honestly, a lot of the teams don't do that. They really don't. And it's why you see such uneven play and all around baseball. You look at the game today. Nobody can run the bases. Defense is bad everywhere. Pitching is not good. It just, all of it is weird. And there are too many smart people in the game for it to be, played at this poorly a rate. And it really is. I mean, there's 10 teams that really play the game well. The rest of the teams, it's a struggle. And it's hard to watch sometimes.
Part of the thing is, with data is good, but sometimes you need to recognize what is driving the data. And I went through this, listen, I was just a service technician. I wasn't a big executive. I was a service technician for Coca-Cola. And I always used that, in management, no one in management in my department had a service technician background, and they were making decisions for us and changing things and, based on data. And I can't tell you how many times I'd say, but yes, but that you're getting that because of that. You're getting this because of that. Like I tell them, yeah, data's good, but you need to understand sometimes what drives the data. It's not, it's like you get too many spreadsheet decisions, so to speak. So, and it's in business, it's in baseball, it's extremely prevalent in baseball, and you even see it in basketball now. I mean, listen, with so many 3-pointers, it's that's like, you don't see people driving to the basket anymore, and it's in baseball. It's the 3 absolute outcomes: a home run, a walk, and a strikeout. You know what?
Yep.
I'm sorry, that bores the crap out of me sometimes. It really does.
And the bad part about that is the game has never been more athletic, and it does not showcase the athletes in the game at all. And we don't see the athleticism on a daily basis. And it's a huge problem in the sport. Nobody steals bases anymore. Shifts take away real defensive effectiveness in a lot of areas because teams are overshifting. And, you tell somebody in baseball you're overshifting and they get all crazy. But, you don't need to shift on every pitch. It's overdone. And I think I've been a proponent for years that one way of bringing athleticism back into the game is not banning the shifts, but keeping everybody in the infield. You shouldn't have an infielder playing short right field like it's softball, because what you're doing is you're taking the switch hitter and you're taking the left-handed hitter out of the game. That's not what you want. And, that would be a simple solution to get more action into the game, because the game needs more action. You're exactly right. There are 3 outcomes. And you're not, people under 50 years old are not sitting through 2 hours and 40 minutes to 3 hours of non-action sports. They just aren't. They're going to go elsewhere with their entertainment dollar. And we're seeing that this year with attendance across the game down. Even the Yankees, who are winning. I haven't gotten more emails for tickets by the Yankees this year than I've ever gotten. And they're winning. What's happening in the markets that have already packed it in? You see games at Baltimore, and that's a phenomenal baseball city. It's embarrassing how few people are at the games.
But you know what? The problem is that there's less people going to the games, but baseball is still increased. They've had 16 years in a row of increased revenue. They're breaking a record every year. Now, granted, the last 2 or 3 years, the increments have been, the increases have been less, but they're still pulling in more and more money every year. And until they start seeing, until they start getting hit in the pocket, they're probably going to, they're going to think everything is fine. And that's what they're looking at. They're like, yeah, sure, people don't go to the games, but we get more people watching here. We get the MLB package. We get people watching on their phones. We get people watching on their tablets. And they're probably, they're looking at the bottom line, and they're not looking, to me, I think they're missing the overall big picture, because it's the whole baseball experience itself that gets you to not want to miss a game when you're home. Yeah. So.
And yet their All-Star game had the lowest ratings ever, which is a bad sign unless it's a Yankees-Dodgers World Series or something that's going to hook people, or they could sell big markets. I mean, they really need to examine where they are as a sport. And it isn't about having a pitch clock.
No,
that
but All-Star games,
the problem.
All-Star games in general, ratings have gone down. I was curious because I was driving in a car with Wyatt. We had sports radio on, and these guys were hammering baseball and talking about, they had like a 6.2 rating. That was the lowest rating they ever had. And I said to Wyatt, I said, do me a favor, Google real quick, what was the NBA All-Star game? They had like, I think it was a 3.8. I said, what was the Pro Bowl? I go, that was probably even lower. The Pro Bowl actually surprised me. They had a 5.1. So the MLB All-Star game actually still gets the highest rating of all the All-Star games. But to me, interleague play has killed it, has hurt it. I won't say killed it. Interleague play has hurt it. I don't like interleague play, but you know what? Guess what? You got 15 teams in each league. I guess we're stuck with it until they figure something out. And and the the fans voting for players. I think it's just like, I think that's like just totally ridiculous. I don't think fans voting for players does anything to increase the interest in baseball, in the All-Star.
I agree.
Not at all. And they ought to let the players, managers, and coaches vote for the All-Star representatives in each league. And they, at the beginning of the year, they ought to submit to every player, if you are not chosen for the All-Star game, would you like to participate in the Home Run Derby? Yes. You know what? And the week before, or, let them name the rosters a week or 10 days before, and then let the fans vote for for 5 days who they want to see in the Home Run Derby, and that's it. Do it like that, And hey, it wouldn't even be the worst idea in the world to have like a little mini Home Run Derby among pitches. I think that would be interesting. But the Home Run Derby itself, I don't even watch it. If I'm home, then I know Wyatt will have it on. So if it's home, I'm watching it because it's on. But do I turn it on? I certainly didn't go out of my way to make sure I was home for the All-Star game. That used to be an event. That was like, wow. So, well, Joe, I know you're short on time. I appreciate you coming on. Oh, I got one question. I was in downtown Delray Beach yesterday. I was by the Starbucks, and when I got out of my car, I smelled garlic. Where was it coming from? It smelled delicious.
Where were you again?
I was by the Starbucks in downtown Delray Beach, on Atlantic Avenue.
That was you're right near where Fazio's is. That's what you were smelling.
Oh man, it was delicious. It was too bad we weren't hungry, but it smelled delicious. So I said, I got to ask Joe where that was coming from.
Yeah, that's Fazio's.
Okay. Anyway, so Joe, thanks for coming on, and let's try to do this a little more regularly.
Sounds good, Wayne. It was a pleasure.
Same here. Thank you, Joe. Have a great day.
Take care. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, everyone, that's our show. I hope you enjoyed it, and I truly do hope to get Joe back. He's been on a couple of times before, extremely knowledgeable, and not afraid to give his opinion, and we like that. So you have a great day, and I hope you enjoy the show.